East River Park is the largest publicly owned green space that Lower East Side residents have free access to. The park has been a long-standing oasis for our extremely diverse Lower East Side community. A waterfront park that spans 58 acres, it is home to nearly 1,000 mature trees, more than 375 plants, insect, bird, and animal species. It borders New York City Housing Authority, also known as NYCHA, with some of the largest stock of public housing in New York City. It also borders the FDR Drive. As New Yorkers are fighting to stay alive during the COVID-19 pandemic, they are fighting to stay housed, they are fighting to stay fed, and they are fighting to keep their park, East River Park, a space that offers refuge, fresh air, and sanity for New Yorkers who don't have the privilege to escape elsewhere.
My family was not a rich family. We do not have the opportunity to travel to places to escape the hustle and bustle of New York City. For the 4th of July, there would always be the firework show that we would be able to see from the FDR Drive. So we were there every single year as a kid, watching the fireworks, having a barbecue with our neighbors and our family. And that was a time where we would convene as a network, you know, like as a social network, as a family, and really enjoy that time without having to worry about, you know, not being able to afford anything, right? Like, we were just paying for food. Like, it's not like we're paying for flights or, you know, hotels, etc. The year before Sandy hit, we had Irene threat, and a lot of people left the community because of that. And then there weren't any immediate threats. So when Sandy occurred, folks didn't want to leave their homes because they figured that they could like weather the storm when they were here. However, we didn't anticipate it to be as severe as it was. So the water came up from the East River, it rose, and it was able to get through the FDR Drive, the highway, into our development. And that was pretty scary to see that this water could actually come over that way. It was the first time we really had to speak about climate change and what can happen when this happens again, right? Because we're not addressing climate change.
This park, the East River Park, and the FDR Drive together were the design of Robert Moses almost 100 years ago. His idea of parks and highways as necessarily connected, that concept is a disaster for health and recreation. Right now, cars are increasing at the largest rate in terms of greenhouse emissions of all sources, the private automobile. And right here on the FDR Drive, it's also the largest source of emissions for the people who live in this area. So the city of New York is planning to spend $1.5 billion on a project to raise the park 8 to 10 feet. The plan in no way addresses the source of sea level rise, what's causing the climate to change and our sea levels to rise and flood our community, which is represented by the FDR Drive, 100,000 or more cars every day that are moving north and south on this highway.
The demolition of East River Park is also an environmental justice issue, as we are living in a climate crisis. The loss and reconstruction of the park, if it pans out according to the city's plans, will have devastating, irreversible impacts not only on the Lower East Side, which is designated by the City of New York as an environmental justice community, but on our city, which touts itself as a climate leader, and our planet as a whole.
One of the worst things that they're thinking about doing is cutting down all the trees. Because again, the trees, first of all, they provide oxygen. We're in the middle of a pandemic. We need the oxygen. Okay, it provides shade in the summer. You know, they provide different types of ecosystems. You know, the squirrels, the birds, you know, the insects. The Sandy did not kill the trees. It didn't kill, you know, the park, because the park has so much ground that could, you know, take the water and suck up the water. And that's the reason the park is still here and the park is still in good shape. Once you get rid of it and you start putting concrete everywhere, that water is going to stay in here. It's going to be like a pool.
With $1.5 billion, the City of New York has the opportunity to be a leader in developing a comprehensive resiliency plan that confronts the climate crisis. Prior to the city's plan, there was a community-minded plan. It was co-designed through 4+ years of collaborative community workshops and 10 teams of architects facilitated by Rebuild by Design. Instead, the city dismissed the community plan, imposing a more destructive, less resilient version that is projected to cost twice the price. The city's plan dismisses main recommendations made by local residents at the time, which were minimum destruction to the park, maintaining access to the waterfront, and the regenerative idea of building an earth berm along the FDR Drive for flood protection. Nearly 9 years after Superstorm Sandy, the community still doesn't have any interim flood protection that they need. The community is concerned about the long-term inadequacies of the city's plan in the face of sea level rise beyond the 2050s, and wonders about the fate of future generations in the Lower East Side.
The climate crisis that is upon us and will get immeasurably worse is orders of magnitude greater than what we're experiencing now. So we've got to really think about how we're spending our billions of dollars, whether it makes sense to continue this kind of wasteful, extravagant method of moving people from A to B and destroy our open space and green space at the same time, or whether we have to reconfigure how we think about transportation. What they're building here with their 8 to 10 foot flood barrier, which is what they're turning the park into, is a massive billion-dollar shrine to the automobile and fossil fuel industry. In addition to the community plan for East River Park, which was far less destructive, is to transform this drive, this FDR Drive, into a mass transit corridor. This serves two purposes. One, to save our park, that we would build our flood wall in the FDR Drive or along the FDR Drive and utilize the other lanes of the FDR Drive for mass transit running north and south, electric buses or light rail. That would be a sensible plan for our community. That's what I call a Green New Deal for the Lower East Side. Transportation equity, actual resilience, and sustainability, not the city's plan to destroy our park and leave in place the very source of the problem, namely the emissions from automobiles that are contributing dramatically to greenhouse emissions and sea level rise.
But they had come up with other plans that worked very well. The only reason they didn't want to do that was because they would have to close one lane on the FDR Drive, which was more important to them. Okay, so basically, us breathing in all them cutting our trees, them letting us breathe in all that exhaust, that's not important. You know how many people in this development have cancer, have COPD, and have asthma and health issues because of this? And nobody seems to care.
With the fact that NYCHA has cut down all the trees in most of these developments, and now that we're cutting down 1,000 trees in this park, you are leaving us without any trees to block us against, carbon emissions, to really help secure and create like this oxygen that we need in the world, right? And we know that kids in public housing have a higher rate of asthma. And that is because of where we're situated. We're by the bridges, we're by Con Ed plants, we are by heavy utilized highways and streets, right? So it's like you are pretty much putting a sentence on our lives.
When you think about everybody that uses the park daily, there are people here that come here running, walking, riding their bicycles, playing different sports, you know, just taking casual strolls. It provides so much for this community. For them to think about going through with this plan, it's just a terrible, terrible idea. It's displacing people from their park.
Parks like East River Park are invaluable to New Yorkers, as our city increasingly becomes engulfed in private overdevelopment, often catering to the rich and wealthy. Many residents consider a loss of the park as an essential loss to their quality of life and well-being. Resiliency planning must address the root causes of the climate crisis, and it must address the inequitable effects that such plans may have on our most vulnerable Indigenous Black communities of color.
A lot of people were going through this situation with COVID, and this park saves many, many lives, because I faced this park, and to look out that window and see people walking, even if I was stuck up in those walls, I don't have a balcony. I don't have a home that I can say, well, I'll stay at my home. I just have this park to look at. And I felt that this was the only way that I can get a breath of fresh air. And I saw the people walking these parks, and I was saying, I wonder if they know that this is not going to be here. I wonder if they know what's going on, because I certainly didn't. When I found out because there was a posting on a lamp post, and I saw a paper, Save East River Park, and I said, Save East River Park, what are they talking about?